Sam Salapor's allegation on the fact that there is an error in the 787 Dreamliner for its fuselage is not fastened together. Those allegations were also looked into by the US. FAA had also grounded many 787 Dreamliners. But as far as India is concerned, these planes have been relatively safe for us.
Well, we've had no problem with these planes. As far as Boeing company is concerned, they were under heavy investigation by the US Congress and Senate, I think, and there's a full report on it. They have castigated them for cutting short processes. Safety measures were cut short. They saved a lot of money. They were
Dr. Kaul, I'm sorry to butt in, sir. Some more reactions are coming in. Let's quickly listen in.
लगभग 45 मिनट पहले हादसा हुआ है। जो पार्किंग है वो पता नहीं कितने कैजुअलिटी हो नहीं बता सकते। वो पूरा बिल्डिंग है जो डॉक्टर रहते हैं उस बिल्डिंग में, रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग है, उसमें डॉक्टर रहते हैं। जो सिविल नहीं वो सरकारी बना के, हाँ रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग है जो सरकारी बना रखा है। जो रखते हैं लोग, वो दोनों बिल्डिंग में लोग रहते हैं। वो 100% हुई होगी, उसके बाद पता चलेगा। शुक्रिया, थैंक यू।
All right, those are reactions, of course, coming in of the people who were on ground, who saw that accident happening, first-hand witnesses of that unfortunate tragedy. Yes, Dr. Kaul.
Boeing company has been under a lot of investigation by the United States, by the FAA. In fact, they found fault with FAA, giving too much, divesting too much of their own thing to the Boeing company to do the security checkup, to the safety checkup, and so on. So Boeing company has been under investigation, but this particular aircraft has been running with Air India for a long time now. And this particular aircraft, there was no particular defect, to the best of my knowledge, with any of the Dreamliners. So, and the Trent engine, which I think they all have, the Rolls-Royce Trent engine. So what has happened now to this aircraft and how did it crash is something very speculative, and we'll have to find the black box.
Call, I will try and get you back. Black box would be important to ascertain what really transpired there. Let's also quickly listen into some other reactions coming from political circles on that tragedy that unfolded in the afternoon today.
दुर्घटनाग्रस्त हो गया है। अभी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी नहीं आई है, लेकिन ये मालूम है कि उसमें 242 लोग सवार थे, लेकिन उसमें कितने क्या हुए इसकी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी अभी नहीं आई।
अहमदाबाद में एक प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है। बताते हैं अहमदाबाद से वह लंदन के लिए जा रहा था और उसमें कुछ इस दुर्घटना के कारण प्लेन क्रैश होने के नाते बहुत सारे यात्रियों को अपनी जान गंवानी पड़ी है। ईश्वर से मैं सबकी सुरक्षित रहने की कामना करता हूं। इस दुखद घटना के लिए मेरी सभी जितने भी पीड़ित परिवार हैं उन सब के प्रति हमारी संवेदना है।
टेक ऑफ के बाद यहाँ पे क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रीलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे। यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियाँ, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे।
बहुत कुछ अभी कोई अंदाजा नहीं लग रहा है।
ये ऐसी खबरें चल रही है रूपानी साहब थे, ऐसा कुछ
नहीं, अभी ऐसा कुछ पता नहीं है कि क्या है।
हालात कैसे? रेसिडेंशियल इलाका था क्या ये?
डॉक्टरों का रेसिडेंशियल इलाका था, उनका फ्लैट था।
और ये कितने बजे हुआ कुछ?
बस 2-2:30 के बीच।
कुछ अंदाजा?
मुझे तो कुछ पता ही नहीं। जैसा मुझे पता चला इसे ऐसा हूँ, मैं भागी हूँ।
कितने उम्र कितनी हो सकती है फिर भी?
वो तो प्लान में जो लोग थे उनका तो पता नहीं है।
रहने वालों की भी कुछ हुई?
रहने वालों को भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ है। कितने आगे का जो ब्लॉक है ना उसमें से सब निकले हैं, वो सही है। थोड़ा उनको हमने हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट किया है।
अभी रेस्क्यू चलेगा?
अभी चलेगा।
All right, that's the latest as far as that plane crash is concerned, which fell from an altitude of about 625 feet. Let me quickly give you a breakdown of how many people were on that aircraft. The flight, Air India flight AI-171 crash incident, which was supposed to take off from Ahmedabad for London Gatwick airport at about 13:38, which is about 1:40 in the afternoon, was carrying about 242 passengers, crew members on the Boeing 787-8 aircraft. Of the 169 were Indian nationals, 53 are British national, 1 Canadian, 7 Portuguese. So far, we know that the Prime Minister has taken stock of the situation. He's spoken to the Home Minister. He's asked the Aviation Minister to be at the site of the crash to help assist with the rescue operations and ensure that all possible help is made available to those who are currently a part of that tragedy. The incident, of course, took place in Ahmedabad, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport was not operational up until now. Some flights are now being allowed to take off. All right, we do know Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, has also reacted to the incident, suggesting that the Ahmedabad air crash is in fact heartbreaking, is as he calls it. The pain and anxiety the families of the passengers and crew must be feeling is unimaginable. My thoughts are with each of them in this incredible, difficult moment. All right, we do have reaction from MOS Civil Aviation, the Minister for Civil Aviation. Let's quickly listen in.
एयर इंडिया का AI-171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना, यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंच रहे हैं।
All right. More and more details emerging with each passing minute of that London-bound flight that crashed earlier in the afternoon today. So far, reports suggesting that about 50 people are feared dead. Home Minister has rushed to the spot. There was a mayday call issued by the first flight attendant, the pilot, right after taking off. But within 5 minutes, that plane went down, resulting in thick plumes of smoke emerging on our screens. We're bringing you every minute-to-minute detail of that Air India flight, which was carrying about 242 passengers, which crashed near Ahmedabad airport. What's more unfortunate is that flight crashing in civilian area at the BJ Medical College in Ahmedabad, resulting in further students being hit. We don't know if there are student casualties just as yet, but about 20 students are also feared dead as a result of that plane crash at the BJ Medical College site. See numbers for emergency services and information regarding the Ahmedabad plane crash. Families and relatives of the passengers on board flight AI-171 are also told to call at numbers, which includes, we'll try and put that on our screens in just about a minute, 0795 56 20359. That's one of the emergency numbers. If you have any family or relative who could be on board the AI 171 flight, you can reach out to authorities at 079-256-20359. Let's quickly listen in to my colleague Niru, who was at the civilian hospital where injured are currently admitted.
देखिए यहाँ पर शोर इतना है, मुझे आपकी आवाज बहुत ही कम आ रही है, लेकिन यहाँ पर फिलहाल मैं सिविल हॉस्पिटल में मौजूद हूँ जो ट्रॉमा सेंटर भी है, और यहाँ पर किस तरह की स्थिति है वो मैं आपको बता देती हूँ। आप जिस तरह से देख रहे हैं काफी अफरा तफरी का माहौल है, लोगों में डर है, लोग सहमे हुए हैं क्योंकि कई ऐसे लोग हैं जिनके परिवार के लोग के जिनके मित्र इस विमान में सफर कर रहे थे, ऐसे लोग अपने परिजनों से मिलने के लिए हॉस्पिटल आए हैं। और सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि ये जो हॉस्पिटल है सिविल हॉस्पिटल, यहाँ से कुछ ही मीटर की दूरी पर सरदार वल्लभभाई पटेल इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट है, जहाँ पर ये भयानक हादसा हुआ है गुजरात के इतिहास में अब तक का ये सबसे बड़ा हादसा, मैं आपको बता दूं। और पीछे जिस तरह से आप भीड़ देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर कि उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, जो पैसेंजर्स इस विमान में सवार थे, उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं वो सारे इस वक्त कैंटीन में मौजूद है। और यहाँ पर जो स्टाफ है हॉस्पिटल के, उन्होंने इस तरह की यहाँ पर उनके लिए व्यवस्था करके रखी है कि जितने भी परिजन आए हुए हैं उनको कैंटीन में एक जगह बैठने की और शांति रखने की सुविधा यहाँ पर दी गई है। काफी घंटों से यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं एम्बुलेंस भर भर कर यहाँ पर कैजुअलिटीज को लाया जा रहा है। अब तक जो ऑफिशियल फिगर दिए गए हैं उसके हिसाब से 50 से ज्यादा लोगों की मौत की आशंका जताई जा रही है और 100 से ज्यादा लोग गंभीर रूप से घायल हुए हैं। लेकिन मैं आपको बता दूं कि जिस तरह की स्थिति, जिस तरह का क्रैश यहाँ पर हुआ था, उसको देखकर ये अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि ये आंकड़ा बढ़ने का जो है वो आशंका अभी जताई जा रही है। फिलहाल ये जो सिविल हॉस्पिटल आप देख रहे हैं, यहाँ पर काफी भीड़ देखी जा रही है।
Colleague Neeru there at the civil hospital trying to ascertain the number of people who are currently admitted there. She's saying about 50 people are feared to be dead. We'll try and update that number for you. But there's also reaction come in for the very first time from Ministry of Civil Aviation. The MOS reacted just a couple of minutes ago. He suggested that Air India AI flight 171, a flight from Ahmedabad to London, accepting has crashed. There were a total of 242 people on board, 230 passengers, 12 crew members. Relief and rescue operations have started on site. The ministry has also held a meeting with senior officials. Home Minister and the Union Minister for Civil Aviation, Ram Mohan Naidu, are reaching. A high-level meeting has also taken place, which was attended by Secretary and DGCA, which is the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, the body responsible for civil aviation safety in the country. Discussions were held on the reasons for the casualties and the ongoing emergency rescue operation. It's too early to comment on the exact number of casualties or what really happened. Priority is to rescue the people who are trapped and injured and provide them with emergency assistance. The team is engaged. We are reaching there. Our top priority is to save as many people as possible, provide them with emergency services, and we'll discuss the other details later. Those are the details emerging by the way of the Ministry of Civil Aviation, the MOS reacting for the first time since that tragedy. Let's listen in to what the Civil Aviation Minister said just a couple of minutes ago.
एयर इंडिया का AI 171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना, यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहाँ पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहाँ पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहाँ पे पहुँच रहे हैं।
Minister for Civil Aviation reacting for the very first time on that tragedy that happened later in the afternoon today. We do know now that there are more casualties, more people feared dead. 50 is what we're reporting at the moment. Many media houses, publications reporting as many as 120 people who may have died. Those are, of course, all speculations. We'll try and get you a final number soon. My colleague Karthik Malhotra joining us live from the newsroom. Karthik, the details around the tragedy continue to unfold, but one thing is quite clear from the visuals that have emerged, that plane, the pilot did his best to keep it on air. All right. Okay, so more visuals there that have come in, Karthik, as we can see on our screens right now. The pilot, as I was saying, tried to keep it afloat, tried to ensure that he moves away from civilian areas. We now know that the plane crash landed in one of the medical colleges in Ahmedabad, and the visuals, of course, on our screen suggesting that despite his efforts, the pilot wasn't able to really take the plane away from civilian area or civilian infrastructure.
You're right, Shweta, and tragic as it may be, unfortunately, there's very little that the pilot could have presumably done in the situation that confronted both of them at the time of flying the aircraft, at the time of taking off. I have been speaking to a few pilot friends of mine and trying to really understand and deconstruct what has been going on, perhaps, looking at these visuals, if there's some sense of rationale that can be drawn. And the only logical or plausible assumption that is coming to mind right now for most of these pilots that I've spoken to, Shweta, is the fact that that things were okay until the aircraft was rolling off the ground. It's only after the aircraft's nose was pitched upwards and the aircraft took to the skies, which is when something has happened in the aircraft. Something has happened definitely with some degree of certainty. Everybody I've spoken to can assure me that something has happened with the engines, and the engines have lost power. Now remember, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner is a dual engine aircraft. Now, one would logically question that if an engine failure has happened, what are the chances that both the engines could have flamed out together? Now, it's not the first time in the history that it has happened that both the engines have flamed out together. It has happened in the past. In fact, the movie Sully was an example of that, and eventually the aircraft did land in the Hudson River safe. That was a case of, the movie was of course based on real life, and the pilot's name was Sully, Captain Sully, who did successfully bring down the aircraft with a dual engine failure. But that notwithstanding, it seems to be a case that engines have flamed out, both the engines have flamed out. The fact that all this has happened immediately after takeoff, and again you can ascertain that because it's been just minutes after being given the clearance to take off at 1:39 p.m. that the aircraft, the pilots have given a mayday call to the ATC. So now if the mayday call has been given just seconds after lifting off, that means something has happened immediately after takeoff, and that something is what we can see from the visuals. Also, there is no power in the engines of the aircraft. Both the engines have flamed out together. There is no power in the engines, and hence the pilots are not able to complete the takeoff procedure. The undercarriage is still down, and the aircraft is gently gliding down towards the ground. Now, had any of the one engines of the aircraft also had any power, the pilot would have been able to maneuver the aircraft, take it away from civilian area. Now, again, my pilot friends are telling me there are two things that you require. You either require, preferably both, but definitely either one of the two. You either require power in the engines or you require altitude for the pilot to be able to make any decisive maneuver which can bring the aircraft down successfully and without causing any harm to the passengers or to infrastructure nearby. In this case, there was no power in the engine. Yeah, there was definitely no altitude. There was no power in the engines. and both these scenarios resulted in the catastrophe, in the damaging sort of reality that we are seeing on our screens right now. Now again, look at the aircraft and look at the picture of the aircraft towards the end. If you see the visuals on the left hand side of the screen, the aircraft is coming down. The angle of attack is as if it wants to come towards the ground, it wants to land. But just seconds before, as the camera zooms in, Shweta, monitor closely, as the camera zooms in, you're seeing that the pilots are trying to pitch the nose of the aircraft up. They are seeing that there is this eventuality, that there's a building in sight, and the aircraft, given its altitude, will not be able to miss the building. It doesn't have power, but it is still pitching the nose up, trying to avoid it. But given the fact that the engines don't have power, it goes in.
And
now, there are some theories which are doing the
scary visuals there. Karthik, stay with us. Captain Shyam Kumar is also joining us. Captain Shyam Kumar, you know, as you heard my colleague there explaining that you either needed thrust power in one of the engines or you needed altitude. Clearly, on our screens, we can see neither there is altitude, and captains seem to have lost thrust as well. Both engines either failed or refused to work in that moment. These are all theories, working theories at the moment, possible reasons for that plane going down as it did.
First of all, my sympathies to the families who lost their teen, and I wish the hospital rescue team, the hospital authorities take care of the people who are injured, and they evacuate the dead bodies immediately, and the injured are treated quickly, and the rescue team are doing their work, NDRF, SDRF, etc. Coming to the point, with my flying experience as a naval pilot and also in the flight safety team of Naval Headquarters at Delhi, and being committee member of Air Force Army exam committee during the Rang De Basanti movie which came, we have done some kind of analysis on the aircraft accidents. First point, the aircraft on a takeoff leg. Takeoff and landing phases of the aircraft operations are most critical phase. World over 60% of the accidents happen during this phase because aircraft is quite in a delicate situation while landing and during takeoff. Especially during takeoff, it is most critical phase of flight, and it is most challenging for the pilot because that time it is under full power and under full load of its destination, and it is at a very low height. All three factors are against the aircraft technicalities for remaining airborne. So here we know the aircraft took off from runway. It has ran through the runway and left the runway. Undercarriage was down. As you see in the video, you are seeing it, and it is going straight forward. As it touches about 825 feet of height, just before that, pilot gives a mayday call. That means it is a likely chance of either engine failure or bird hit. When there is a bird hit, the aircraft, one engine will flame out. And in this case, the second engine may not be able to sustain the requirement of the thrust that it needs to remain airborne. Therefore, the second engine will not be able to hold the aircraft in that situation as the aircraft nose is pitching up and it is trying to get a safe height from where they can reduce power and then they can manage the engines, either one engine or two engines. So therefore, the ATC, air traffic controller, generally tells the aircraft to depart straight ahead up to 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, and then only the aircraft turns. So my audience through your channel should know the aircraft was in a very, very critical stage of flight, and it had no choice to go anywhere other than to just land straight ahead. And if there is a clear patch straight ahead, a pilot could have endeavored and made their best skills as they were very experienced to land straight ahead. But unfortunately, there was no clear patch. There was a building, there was a doctor's mess in the hospital, and aircraft had no choice other than to just stall onto the buildings. And that's what he did.
And
he
had
could not
minutes
have
to
turned,
pivot.
he couldn't have
Absolutely.
maneuvered the aircraft. There is
Captain
no
Kumar, they had minutes to pivot. We now know that the entire incident unfolded in less than 5 minutes. That they had only minutes to pivot, and there was absolutely no clear patch of land nearby. And it does look like Captain, in the very last moment, trying to do the best he can. On our screens just a while ago were the visuals of Bhupendra Patel, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who is also now visiting the civil hospital in Gujarat. Let's get that back on our screens. Remember, authorities are now rushing in to hospitals, ensuring that relief and rescue mission is at a lightning pace. Chief Minister there on our screens at the moment. We now know that Civil Aviation Minister is also hoping to land in Gujarat very soon. Home Minister is also scheduled to be in Gujarat. It's a tragedy that's caught everybody off guard. Happening just this afternoon with the plane, the Air India flight crashing at about 1:40 this afternoon. My colleague Karthik Malhotra continues to be with me. Karthik, as we try and ascertain what really happened here, you know, you were giving an example of Hudson and Captain Sally. I think he was lucky. There was Hudson there. There was nothing here. This was primarily a civilian area with clearly no clear patch of land, as we can see on our screens. It had to crash land, and if it did crash land, I believe the captain there tried making every attempt to move beyond that densely populated area, but clearly there wasn't enough thrust.
Yeah, exactly. So, Shweta, I mean, given the fact that the aircraft had just taken off and did not have the advantage of altitude, because, you know, when you have altitude, you can at least maneuver the aircraft physically, even in the absence of both the engines or either one of the engines working. In this case, of course, as we can see, the aircraft has only just taken off. The undercarriage is still down. The wheels are still down. It is still perhaps momentum and inertia is, according to pilots that I've spoken to, is what carried the aircraft to that altitude of about 625 feet. But perhaps the incident, the issue with the aircraft happened well before the 625 feet was achieved by the pilots. Now again, there were some theories, and I was hearing some experts on our channel earlier alluding to the fact that perhaps the fuel supply to the engines could have possibly snapped, and that could be one of the reasons why both the engines cut off and flamed out. Now that again, according to pilots who have studied the 787 Dreamliner, have confirmed to me that there is not one but there are two sources of fuel supply to the two engines.